What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, we got to talk about, well, the biggest news story of the day for sure. Maybe the biggest news story since the Game Awards, kind of coming out of left field. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm actually pretty happy with this decision, and especially the way that it's worded. I want to talk about the wording of this. And, well, you see by the title, you see based off of online, The Last of Us Online has officially been canceled. They're done making it. They issued a statement. They issued a blog. They explained why they're done with it, and they kind of give us a little, not hints, but a little like look into the future, that they're working on more than one ambitious single-player game. Now, because of the rumors and the back and forth, you can debate if the reasoning why the game is canceled is true, right? Maybe they're withholding things, maybe they're telling the truth, and the rumors are lies. That's totally possible. But one thing, regardless of all of that I want to point out that I do believe is genuine, sincere, and I think a really good sign, not just for Naughty Dog, but maybe PlayStation in general, is the crux of, okay, we can either become a live service team going forward, or we can do single-player games, which is what we do best at Naughty Dog, which, by the way, again, regardless of your opinion of them, right? We can either do something we've never done before and throw everything at it, or we can keep doing what we've done so well and go that path. I think they made the right choice, and I love to read that specific part. Look, I've been pretty clear with my opinion on live service. There's been plenty of videos of me talking about it. I think they can work, but generally I'm pretty opposed to that genre of games. I think it's largely bad. I think there's many failures there. I don't think it's a good path for the industry to go down, all that jazz. We're not going to go too deep because I've talked about it before. But for this, again, the short and sweet thing, they say that it was canceled. They say that they've been working on it ever since The Last of Us Part 2. Some stuff we already knew, right? We knew this multiplayer was in the works a long time ago. Now, they paint it in a different way, again, versus what we saw in the leaks and rumors. They paint it as it was going well. We had a vision. We had kind of gameplay mechanics, which, by the way, those totally are The Last of Us Part 2 remaster, the roguelike mode. That is totally leftovers, which I said that when that was first announced, but now you know for sure. Like, it's not, I guess, a fact because they didn't say it, but I would say I'd bet a lot of money that they took a lot of core ideas that they were, messing around with, right, trying to get to work for a full-fledged multiplayer thing, and they put it as that roguelike mode in remaster. I think that's fine. I think that's a good idea. But anyway, so they talk about, hey, we had a good idea, we had a concept, everything was going pretty okay, but then we basically came to the point where we had to decide, in order to make The Last of Us Online work, in order to supply content to it for years on end. Again, this is, in my opinion, a negative with these live service. I guess depends on how you look at it, but this is going to take years and years and years of effort, which would completely stop Naughty Dog from doing anything else. Now, you could argue if that little part right there is actually true, because the rumors of like Bungie kind of being like the overseer of, hey, let's look at all the live service games that PlayStation is doing. Let's kind of grade them. Let's critique them. Let's figure out, which ones stand a chance, and we'll get back to you. And the rumor is they did that with The Last of Us, and they came back in a not positive way, right? So the report card was bad in that sense. So you could argue, well, are they lying? Are they lying about they had a great, like everything was going okay? If you just read the blog post, you're thinking everything was smooth sailing, and they just got to the point where they had to dedicate the whole team or none of the team, right? I think that last part is true. I do think they reached a point where they decide, and I'll get to that in a second. There could have been a little bit more of like rocky road, right? It could have been a lot harder to get to this point than they are letting on. But again, and I don't want to focus on that too much, because I actually think the crux of this, beyond like the big news story, beyond it just being canceled, I think is this realization that Naughty Dog, which I don't know if they're Sony's or PlayStation, I don't know if they're like their golden child anymore. Certainly there was a long stretch of time where if you thought PlayStation, you thought of Naughty Dog, right? I think some people probably still would. I think Insomniac has honestly risen up. I think Sucker Punch is way underrated even still, even though everybody kind of likes Ghost of Tsushima. I think they might actually be the best quality. You got Santa Monica, so on, right? There's a lot of talented teams, and what do they do best? Well, not live service, that's for sure, right? But that's the point. Like, no matter no matter, I guess, my thoughts on live service, because I've talked about it so often, and no matter the rumors of how we got here with The Last of Us, I like to see that specific part, the part where they had to decide. And now they make it seem like it was their own decision, which I hope it was. And that's always kind of been my problem. And I truly believe it is the problem with this live service push. Regardless of how you feel, because I know there's people that like live service games, regardless of how you feel about it, I think the main issue that I have is you build these teams to not make those kind of games. You build them for very specific reasons, and then Sony wants to ride the trend, which I think is a terrible idea, for live service. Not to say that they can't work here and there and that Sony wouldn't have a couple hits, but Sony's following a trend. They're not leading, they're following. That's just a fact, right? So, okay, they're doing that. Now you have to make the teams that you built for one thing to do something completely different. And it's very, very clear that those decisions are not on the team. Not Naughty Dog, not just Naughty Dog, any of these teams. It's on PlayStation. It's on whoever makes these. If it was, Jim Ryan, if it was whoever, if it was a collective group versus, one person. The idea was, we're going to ride this trend. We're going to make teams that have never done this before, that we didn't build for this. We're going to make them do this. And that did not come from the team. So an underrated thing to see from this entire news story, they make it sound like they decided. Not Sony, not PlayStation, them. Naughty Dog decided, hey, we can either do it or not do it. And if we do it, we can't do what we're good at. We can't do what we actually like to do. Reading in between the lines, we can't do what we actually like to do. So let's do that. And I am, regardless of, hey, Last of Us Part 3 could suck. Last of Us Part 2, I have very conflicted thought. We've talked about it for 3 freaking years, right? It's regardless of whether you even like some of the past stuff that Naughty Dog has done. I think the biggest takeaway is, do these guys have independence again? And I say it in quote because you don't know. Did they have independence? I don't think they did, because I think they were told to make a live service game. I absolutely do. I think you easily could have made a multiplayer mode to The Last of Us 2. You want to know why? Because they did it for The Last of Us 1. It would not be hard to do. And they did it with Uncharted. They did it with Uncharted 2, 3, and 4. Multiple times they did it. And you iterate a little bit, but you don't reinvent the freaking wheel. You don't make it its own, game, right? Not to say it would have been bad, because I actually think it maybe wouldn't have been bad. I've talked about The Last of Us multiplayer, that I think there's plenty you could do in it. But again, the basic idea is, I think almost the easy way out, they would have just done that. A simple tag-along, a factions mode, right? I think they were told somewhere in the process, you must do this. You must make because everybody must do live service, or, whatever Sony's, doctrine is. And I'm really glad to see it. I'm sad because I do actually want to see a multiplayer Last of Us. I think factions is still, to this day, good. I still like it. So, am I saddened by this? Yeah, to a degree. But ultimately, whether they're lying to me or I'm gullible or what, I'm going to buy kind of what they're selling here, in the sense that they're almost distracting me. They've distracted me so much from caring about the multiplayer, because they've almost brought the message or brought the conversation for me to, hey, we want to do single player again, so let's do, and that's what I want to see more. And you know what? Let me just quickly, last second here, throw this in. There was that rumor, and we talked about it on this channel, a couple months ago, that Sony was pivoting, and a lot of these live service things are not going to happen. I said that's a lie. I actually said I don't believe that rumor, because I think Sony would need to see it fail. I think if you're going to do this and go all in, which Sony has set, 10 live service games in the span of 3 years, right, or whatever it was, but then they said, well, now we're going to delay half of it. Remember that? That's actually, now, as things happen, maybe that's true. Because the rumor is that they're kind of pulling away from it. I said, well, you would want to see it fail first. Why would you go all in and then pull away before you even released one live service game, right? Wouldn't you want to see how it does before you stop, your push? But yet again, this is canceled. It sounds like Naughty Dog's in control. And then when it comes to PlayStation and live service games in general, they've outright said this out loud. Games have been delayed. Live service games have been pushed. And some games just that window, that 10 games and however many, like 2-3 years, that's not true anymore. They corrected that like a few months ago, and I believe I covered that too. So now thinking about it, maybe they're second guessing themselves and they're saying, you know what? Instead of 10 games in 3 years, maybe we'll just do like 1 or 2 a year, couple years, and see how they do, because we don't know if it's going to work. And I'm sorry, like, I'm not a fanboy, and this is not a fanboy video, but like I said earlier, kind of jabbing them, this literally, like, their games can still be things that like define something or push the industry forward, but literally riding the wave of live service is a following action. They are literally following the trend of live service and want to jump on that wagon. And I don't really know if that's best for them. I actually don't think it's best for them. Maybe they have realized that. I don't know. I'm not willing to fully believe it until maybe another one of these situations happens. But that rumor that they're backing off this every day kind of seems more accurate. But I'm not willing to give it yet. I need like one other thing to kind of happen till I say, okay, maybe there is something to it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.